Vision Pa. Nichalila Vishnu Vision Pa. Stuta Sata Shishila. Shishimad Bhakti Vakshakshila Shira Goswami Maj Ki Jai. Nichalila Vishnu Vision Pa. Stuta Sata Shishila. Bhakti Stanta Saraswati Goswami Maj Papa Ki Jai. Ma Bhagavat Shila Kushodas Goswami Maj Ki Jai. Satchidananda Shila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnava Savabhoma Shila Jagannath Das Babadi Maharaj Ki Jai. Shiva Punukuva Ki Jai. Shiva Psnan Padavagna Shiva Kopalabadas Savagana Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sri Ramananda Shivo Prashad Vinda Ki Jai. Namacharish Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Praise the Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Antari Navadviptam Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopa Vedanta Shivanatma Krishna Raja Mandala Ki Jai. Shri Sham Kundvara Kuni Munaganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Gopishvama Devi Ki Jai. Shri Giraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Asaki Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Astamanjari Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadristashan Ki Jai. Shri Nishingu Bhagavan Prabhu Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravashi Palad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charadam Charasambada Characharya Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishna Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Bhakti Basics Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Okay, welcome everyone to part 10 of Bhakti Basics, and we'll begin with Bhajan by Kunamai Didi. Take it away.
Gurudev Kirpa Bindudiya. Gurudev Kirpa Bindudiya Koro Etase Prenar Bhikarate Hina Gurudev Kirpa Bindudiya Koro Etase Trenar Bhikarate Hina Chakarar Sane Balatia Koro Nijar Manes Birhahina Chakarar Sane Balatia Koro Nijar Manes Birhahina Gurudev Kirpa Bindudiya Koro Etase Trenar Bhikarate Hina Sakalar Sarmana Karite Sakati Dehanata Jatar Jata Sakalar Sarmana Gorite Sakati Dehanata Jatar Jata Tavito Kaipo Arinar Masoke Davito Kairpar Harinar Masoke Aparata Behata Aparatarha Behata Gurudev Kirpa Bindudiya Koro Etase Trenar Bhikarate Hina Kabe no Kirpa Labia Echana Gitata Hoy Erbernata Gabi no Kirpa Labia Echana Gitata Hoy Erbernata Shakti Bodhina Ami Ati Dina Shakti Bodhina Ami atitina koror mare atma sadha goror mare atmar sata guru te kirpa penchatia koro etasi trenar bhikshara tehina Yagyachar gichare gichar nahi pai domara karor nasara Yagyachar gichare gichar nahi pai domara karor nasara garor na naile kadia kadia karor na naile kadia kadia prananara kirtorara Prananara kirtorara Guru te kirpa pentotia Goro etasi Trinabhikara tehina Jaya Guru terva Jaya Guru terva Jaya Guru terva Jaya Guru terva Guru terva Jaya Guru terva Jaya Guru terva Jaya Guru terva
Jai. Great. Okay, welcome everyone.
Hare
Can you please go on mute? Okay, thank you. Okay, so welcome everyone to part number 10 of Bhakti Basics, and can begin with Pranam Mantras. Om Ginat Mandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshumalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyapane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayane Tinamine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhavevacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Hemapyadivya Chavisandaya Tasma Ma Prema Rasa Pradaya Titanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Shama Sundara
Ram
Chandrasekhara
Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Valimanoha
Hare
Radhikara
Krishna Krishna
Sikam
Krishna Hare
Kripa
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Vaprichavana Kinkavim Karu Tavai Vashmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vignaya Vate Tvam Nayamam Charanantike Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Shiptastakama Titarangamajay Kripamai Tvam Shanam Papanam Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shiko Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before I begin, I'd like to offer my humble, most respectful obeisances, my heart like flowers of dust at the lotus feet of my Gurudev, Om Vishnupad Astata Sadashishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And at the same time, I offer my humble, most respectful obeisances time and time again, the dust of the lotus feet of my Param Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Bhusham Vishnupad Astata Sadashishimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada and Nitya Lila Bhusham Vishnupad Astata Sadashishimad Bhakti Gyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj. And to all Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis and all assembled devotees here, please accept my humble, respectful obeisances. Okay, so last time we spoke about Bhakti Tattva. We gave a brief introduction of Bhakti Tattva, and I was just wondering if Shamali Didi is here. She can. Are you there?
Hare
Shamali Didi?
Krishna, Chara Chandrika, yes. Yes, I'm here. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Okay, is it possible you could just give a brief summary of the first half of that introduction to Bhakti Tattva?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, please. I will attempt to do that. So, Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Iti Namane. So I just want to pay my obeisances to all gurus and Gauranga and to my most worshipful guru hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times. So you gave a beautiful class last time on Bhakti Tattva, sort of what is, how to know Bhagavan, how to attain Bhagavan is the ultimate goal of where we're trying to go, but how do we do that? And so you gave a beautiful definition of karma yoga, which we're also familiar with that. Karma is activity. You do good acts, you do bad acts, you get the reaction to that. It's also the work prescribed by the Vedas and pious activities in accordance with the Vedic injunctions, leading to material gain. So it's really about material gain, and it's the bottom rung. You said it was the bottom rung. It's where we begin to see that what we do, we reap the fruits of that. So then karma kanda is where it's sacrificial acts and Vedic ceremony that is the sole intent is to gain material things or liberation. And then it comes karma yoga, where you're doing those activities for Bhagavan, and it's starting to get one more step up that ladder. And then nishkarma yoga is performing one's prescribed duties without attachment. So you're not attached to the results, and that's a kind of a higher step, as you said. And then the intermittent stage is Gyan. So this is knowledge, realized knowledge, or Brahma Gyan is knowledge. It's realized knowledge, and also knowledge of the scriptures, Vedas, that sort of thing. And then some that again, it might lead to impersonal liberation. So and it's primary. The Gyan yoga is to distinct. It's like Samkhya philosophy. It's the 24 elements, distinguishing what is spirit, what is matter, and knowing what the difference between the soul and the three gunas and everything material. And then Sambandha Gyan is understanding our relationship with Krishna. So Jnana knowledge, it's the process of understanding the absolute truth. It's a higher level. It's like an intermediate level. That's how you described it. And then, but bhakti is the highest rung. And you were also talking about the Bhagavad Gita being arranged in 18 divisions, 6 on, just let me look at my notes, 6 in the beginning on karma yoga, 6 in the middle of bhakti yoga, and 6 at the end Gyan yoga. So bhakti yoga is the treasure chest, the chintamani, sandwiched in between these other two processes. So all these processes lead to Gyan and bhakti being a more mature and elevated, sort of the top rung. So there are gradations that Maninini can go into, but so that's sort of the basics place where we were starting from in your Bhakti Tattva. Did I leave anything out? Do you want me to speak on anything else?
That's pretty good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very good summary of the first half. Thank you so much, Shamali Didi. And maybe Manini Radha Didi, if you're there. Do you want to go on from, I think it was slide number 6?
Sure.
Back to you.
My tilak is messy today. Yeah, so as Shamali Didi was saying, there's, karma and Gyan, but the topmost yoga is Uttama Bhakti, or Shuddha Bhakti, is derived. One thing about that, this is the path of realization of devotional service to Bhagavan. And you talked about how it was derived from Bhaj, from the root Bhaj, which also is the root of Bhajan, which means to serve. So when we are performing activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Sri Krishna and are in a favorable mood, with love, devoid of other desires, and not covered by karma and Gyan, this is actual like pure bhakti. And there's that verse that I think we all know or should know from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabilasita Shunyam, Gyana Karma Janavritam, Anukulayana Krishna Usilanam Bhakti Uttama, Bhaktir Uttama, which is the definition, the classic definition of pure bhakti, which is when we have bhakti that's not covered by karma and Gyan. It's actually uninterrupted flow of service to Sri Krishna, performed through all endeavors of our body, mind, speech, everything. I think of that Bible verse, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. So to me, this is like the actualization of that. When we're able to do that and we're not covered by Gyan and karma, and we're free from all other desires except for the aspiration to serve and bring happiness to Sri Krishna, then that's Uttama Bhakti. Another name for it is Swarup Siddha Bhakti. And you also talked about a lot of little distinctions within this of Nirgun Bhakti being Bhakti that's devoid or unaffected by the modes of the material nature, modes being ignorance, passion, and goodness. So it's transcendental. This kind of bhakti we're talking about is beyond that. Other names are Kevala Bhakti, which is exclusive bhakti, or Anya Bhakti, which is one-pointed. Ananya, thank you. Ananya Bhakti, which is one-pointed. Akinchan Bhakti, which is selfless, and Vishuddha Bhakti, which is pure. And Nishkama Bhakti is similar to Nishkama Karma Yoga, but it's when there's the performance of bhakti without the desire for material results. And then we have Sakama Bhakti, which is the performance of bhakti. That's a contrast for the purpose of satisfying material desires. So there's also lots of gradations, as Shamali Didi was saying. There's Mishra, or mixed devotional bhakti. So it says that Uttama Bhakti implies the existence of an inferior bhakti, a Dhamma Bhakti, or Mishra Bhakti, a mixed devotional bhakti. And as we're moving through this, Karma Mishra Bhakti, or Karma Pradhan Bhuta Bhakti, is devotion mixed principally with a prescribed duty predominating, or devotion predominating. Devotion predominates, but it has prescribed duty sort of contained inside it. That's a Karma Mishra Bhakti. And Gyan Mishra Bhakti is devotion that's mixed with knowledge, but with devotion predominating, or Gyana Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. And so that's, I think, covering, it starts to get very technical, but we're really getting, I think, a wonderful foundation in this class that we can go back and continue to imbibe and make sure that we understand the stepping stones and the path that we're trying to follow. So I think I covered what was left. I don't know if I left anything out.
Yeah, that was very, very good. Thank you so much. You got the essence there, both you and Shamali Didi. Thank you both. So that's very good summary. And we're ready for today's part 10. So basically it's about Uttama Bhakti and mixed Bhakti if we get around to, because there's a bit more on mixed Bhakti that I didn't cover last time. So Karunamai Didi, would you like to start sharing the slides?
Sure, let me do that.
Yeah, we haven't got Krishna Priya Didi today, so Karunamai Didi's doing multitasking.
There you go.
Okay, so Uttama Bhakti and Mixed Bhakti, Bhakti Basics Part 10. So what is the definition of Uttama Bhakti? This is a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. And it's, I think, possibly the most quoted verse by our beloved Srila Gurudev. Very important verse that he said we should all know. And he said if someone doesn't know this verse, then they are not my disciple. It's very, very important to dive deeply into this verse, which is what we're going to try to do today. So, Anyabalasita Sanyam Gyana Kamana Vitam Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam Bhakti Uttama. The cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Shri Krishna, or in other words, the uninterrupted flow of service to Shri Krishna, performed through all endeavors of the body, mind, and speech, and through the expression of various spiritual sentiments or bhavs, which is not covered by Gyan, knowledge aimed at impersonal liberation, and calm, reward-seeking activity, and which is devoid of all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Shri Krishna, is called Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service. So Gurudev said, although there's many definitions of bhakti that have been given in Shastra, then this definition is absolutely topmost. It's the jewel of all definitions. Like the maybe other definitions in Shastra, like actually another definition of pure bhakti from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami is Sarvapadi Vinumaktam Tat Paratvena Nemalam Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uttama. Sorry, Bhakti Uchate. Got mixed up there. So Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. So that means that bhakti means the engagement of all of one's mind and senses in the service of Shri Krishna with the sole purpose of pleasing him. And it's uncontaminated by Gyan or calm. And when the jiva renders service unto Rishikesh, who's the master of all senses, Krishna, who's the master of all senses, one's senses become spiritualized and one is freed from all material designations. So this is also a very good definition, but it's not all inclusive like this definition from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabalasita Sanyam. So what Rupa Goswami did is he combined all the previous definitions of bhakti and has given this most beautiful, like, new definition in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is the life and treasured aspiration of all Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gurudev said this. So we can go on to the next slide. So basically, what we're going to do is look very deeply into all the different aspects of this verse. When you read it at first, you think, okay, very nice. But actually, when you dive deeply into this verse, then you uncover and you discover so many jewels that you wouldn't even imagine were there. So this has been described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So he's really explained each and every word. So there's no shadow of a doubt what is the deep inner meanings and outer meanings of this verse. So we could start with the symptoms of Uttama Bhakti. So the Srup Lakshan. Srup Lakshan means the intrinsic characteristic or inherent nature. And that is the second line of this verse, second part, I should say, of this verse. Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. So this is Uttama Bhakti involves the cultivation of activities favorable to Shri Krishna. And then there's the Tatastha Lakshan, which is the extrinsic characteristics or those qualities that are not part of the nature of bhakti. And that is Anyubalasita Sunyam Gyana Karma Navritam. That's the first part of the verse. Uttama Bhakti is devoid of all desires other than to please Shri Krishna, and it is not covered by Gyan and Karma. So, this first part, this Anukule, the Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam Bhakti Uttama, the Srup Lakshan, that's the intrinsic characteristic or inherent nature of bhakti described in that line. This is said to be the Srup Lakshan of Uttama Bhakti because it acquaints us with the inherent nature of bhakti. What is the inherent nature of bhakti? And it described so nicely here in this verse by Rupa Goswami and by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So the first part, Anyubalasitashanyam Gyana Karmanavatam, the Tatastha Lakshan, is called this because it defines those characteristics that aren't part of the nature of bhakti. So we can move on. I think it's maybe questions. Okay, so we're just making it short, each part, because there's a lot to get through. So if you want, you can ask the first few questions.
Okay, so the first question.
Sorry, before you do, just briefly go back so people can have a little recap.
Okay.
It's the first two.
There you go.
Yeah, so there's the definition of Uttama Bhakti.
Okay.
So the uninterrupted flow of service to Krishna, performed through all endeavors of body, mind, and speech, and through the expression of various spiritual sentiments or bhavs. Now, this Gurudev, I forgot to mention, always describes it's like honey flowing from a jar. If you take a jar of honey and you pour, you see that there's no break. It's flowing continuously. And this is what described Krishna Anushilanam in this verse. So the symptoms of Uttama Bhakti, the Srup Lakshan and Tatastha Lakshan. So the second part of the verse is Srup Lakshan and the first part of the verse is Tatastha Lakshan. And that's the intrinsic and extrinsic characteristics. Okay.
Okay. So if you'd like to answer, please go ahead and raise your hand. I think I need to change from stop sharing. Okay. There. And then gallery view. So if you'd like to answer, please raise your hand. The first question is, what is the definition of bhakti by Rupa Goswami in Sanskrit or in English?
Or both.
Or both, if you'd like to say the verse. Shamali?
All right, take a moment to get in. So it's a beautiful verse, Anyubalasita Shunyam Gyan Karmani Anavritam Anukulyena Krishna Silanam Bhakti Uttama, which describes the inherent, first the Anukulyena, the last line, is the inherent qualities of bhakti. So these are doing activities that are favorable for Krishna. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, just to if you can remember the whole English definition, then, or if you want to summarize the definition.
Oh yeah, I can. I just wanted to make sure that you
You were covering the second question, actually. You started to cover the second question.
Okay. So the first the whole verse as it begins, Anabilasita Shunyam, it means any other desire that is devoid of Gyan, karma, or any other activity, furtive activity that would be for material gain, that is not bhakti. So the only bhakti that is pure bhakti is which is that which is done, which is favorable for Krishna, and only done for pure love of Krishna. So that's hopefully a definition of the verse.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Okay, and the next question is, what's the meaning of Swarup Lakshana and Tatastha Lakshana, and which part of the verse is which? And if you, oh, my Nini.
Okay, Swarup Lakshana refers to Anukulena, Krishna Usilan, and Bhakti Uttama, and it's about the specific bhakti that involves the cultivation of activities that are favorable for serving Sri Krishna. And Tatastha Lakshana is speaks to the Anyabhilasi Tashunyam Gyana Karma Janavritam part of the verse, which is about being devoid of all the other desires and not being covered by Gyan and karma. So I think that covers it. So one is intrinsic. The intrinsic is the Anukulyena, Krishna Usilan, and Bhakti Uttama, inherent nature, and the other is extrinsic. Tatastha Lakshana is extrinsic, so it's not part of the nature of bhakti.
That's right. Yeah. Very good. Thank you both. Shamali, Didi, and Anurad. Okay, so we can go. Is that all the questions? Yeah, you can go on to page 5. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to look at the Swarup Lakshan, or the intrinsic characteristic of bhakti. So Anushilanam means constant cultivation. And shil is the verbal root or dhatu, to do or practice. Anushilana means to constantly practice or cultivate. So just as all various meanings of dhatus or verbal roots can be understood by the ideas that are expressed when applied as kriya or verbs, all meanings of the verbal root shil, to do or practice, may be known by the word anushilana, which means to constantly practice or cultivate. That makes sense. So there are 2 meanings of any verbal root or dhatu. That's chesta roop, some activity is implied in every verbal root, and bhav roop, or some particular sentiment is inherent in or accompanying every action. Okay, so we're looking at the verbal root here, which is shil, anushilanam. Shil is the verbal root, which means to do or practice, and anushilana means to constantly practice or cultivate. Okay, so then next slide. So Krishna Anushilanam means cultivation of activities for Shri Krishna. Chesta Roop, endeavors, and Bhav Roop, or spiritual sentiments. So there are 2 kinds of Chesta Roop. First is the Sadhana Roop, endeavors in the stage of sadhana, comprising both Vaidhi and Raganuga sadhana, leading to the manifestation of Bhav. Okay, So then there's Karya Roop, which are endeavors that manifest as effects upon attaining the stage of Bhav. In other words, Anubhavs, like singing and dancing, or Sattvic Bhavs, crying and aripulation, so on. And the limbs of Bhakti performed in the stage of Bhav. So, so we're looking at Sadhana Roop here and Karya Roop, and there are 13 Anubhavs. It's mentioned Anubhavs here, just singing and dancing, but actually these Anubhavs are one of the 5 ingredients of Bhakti Ras. So that means, you know, the activities that display or reveal the bhavs situated within the heart. So the activities that dispel or reveal the bhavs that are situated within the heart. So different anubhavs, there's 13, like I said, there's Nitya, dancing, Viluntita, rolling on the ground, Gita, singing, Krosna, loudly crying, Tanumotana, writhing of the body, Hunkara, roaring, Jimbana, yawning, Svasabhua, breathing heavily, Loka and Apekshita, giving up a concern for public image, not caring for public opinion at all, Lalashrava, salivating, Atahasa, loud laughter, and Guna is staggering about, and Hika is a fit of hiccups. So that might sound the symptoms of someone who has consumed too much alcohol. They've become drunk, intoxicated, but actually when one becomes intoxicated through love of God, then these symptoms will appear, but they're completely pure and transcendental. So these anubhavs are expressions of bhav within the heart and are only activated in the outer body, the external body, and therefore they're called anubhavs. So you see them manifest in that devotee's body externally, and that is different from the sattvic bhav. So there are 8 sattvic bhavs, or bodily transformations, that are again one of the 5 ingredients of Bhakti Ras, and they arise exclusively from Vishuddha Sattva, pure transcendental goodness. So in other words, when the heart is overwhelmed by bhavs in connection with the 5 primary rasas in relation to Krishna. So what are those 8 sattvika bhavs? They are stamba, becoming stunned, seda, perspiration, romancha, which means standing of the hairs on end, svarabhanga, faltering of the voice, kampa, trembling, vaivana, like a change of color, ashru, tears, and pralaya, which means like fainting or losing one's consciousness. So these are all different types of anubhavs and sattvika bhavs. So there are 5 ingredients of Bhakti Ras, like Sthai bhav, vibhav, sanchari, or vibrachari bhavs it's called, and anubhavs and sattvic bhavs. So that's mentioned here. And the other 5 ingredients of Bhakti Rasa, Sthai bhav, and the 33 vibrachari bhavs. So and then there's also vibhav, which calls for the taste in Bhakti Ras, and that's 2 types. There's 2 types: alamban, which is support, or and then there's 2 categories of that: vishaya, which means Krishna, and ashraya, which refers to the devotees of Krishna. And then the second lamban is Uripan, which means stimulus. So these are, this can all be found in books like Jivadharma and Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, explained in great detail. So we can go on to the next page. Oh, okay. So, question. Oh, we can just go back briefly over. So, Srup Lakshan, intrinsic characteristic. So, we're looking at the word Anushilanam, which means constant cultivation. And the verbal root of that is shil, to do a practice, and Anushilan, to constantly practice or cultivate. And just so you know, that there's two meanings in any verbal root. So there's chaste roop and bar roop. So what is that chaste roop? What's that bar roop is explained there. And then the next slide. So then this explains Krishna Anushilanam, cultivation of activities for Krishna. So that's chaste roop and bar roop. And there's two kinds of chaste roop. And that is sadhan roop and karya roop. So sadhan roop endeavors in the stage of sadhan and includes Vaidhi and Raganuga Bhakti sadhan. And it leads to the manifestation of Bhav and karya roop, those endeavors that manifest as effects upon attaining the stage of Bhav, like the Anubhavs and the Sattvika Bhavs, and the limbs of Bhakti performed in the stage of Bhav. So then we can go into the questions.
Okay, so if you'd like to answer, please raise your hand. First question is, what is the meaning of Sanskrit verbal root seal, and what is the meaning of Anusilanam? If you'd like to answer, please raise your hand. So the question is, what is the meaning of the Sanskrit verbal root seal, and what is the meaning of Anusilanam? Manini.
I will try to answer this, although I think my thing is kind of blurred. Seal is, I'm sorry, wait, I was looking back at my notes, but I just got lost. Maybe someone else can jump in. I don't have it memorized yet. Haribol, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so would anybody else like to give a go at what the verbal root of seal is and the meaning? Oh, Nilsa? We have someone who's raised their hand. Nilsa?
Haribo. This is Induleka from Brooklyn. How are you?
Induleka. Hare Krishna. Dandavad.
Jai, Dandavat Pranams. So Anushila, wait, you're saying Sheila, no?
Shil, just shil.
Shil.
Right, I said so.
And isn't that part of Anushilanam?
It is. So, but what does
Okay.
that verbal root on its own mean?
I'm still thinking to cultivate.
Yeah, to do or practice. To do or practice.
To do or practice, okay. And that's still part of what Bhakti is, what, to put our all and our everything, to practice, to do this, to action this every day in our life.
Yeah. So Anushilanam, what does that mean then?
Anushilanam is Bhakti.
So the actual word, the word meaning?
You got me there. I just remember because I remember going over it in other times, and then the English word verbiage is a little bit getting me right now, but it's basically the actual cultivation of mind, body, spirits, everything.
Yeah, you're right. The constant cultivation.
Constant, correct. As Shamarani Didi and our beloved Srila Gurudev says, always.
Yes.
You must put this into practice. This is your whole life.
Yes.
Thank you. Hari Bo.
Thank you. So the next question
The next question is, what is the meaning of Sesta Roop and Bhava Roop? Would you like to answer?
Okay.
Manini, please. Sorry.
Okay. Chester Roop is the activity that's implied. That's
Yeah.
implied, and Bhava Roop is basically the mood or the sentiment that activity. Sorry.
There's some background. Can you mute, please?
I just did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm saying Chester Roop is the actual activity itself that's implied, and then the Bhava Roop is the sentiment inherent in that action or activity or the mood.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, chaste, you could say the endeavors also.
Okay.
The
Okay.
and the Bhav, the spiritual sentiments like that. So yeah, is there any other question?
One more question. What are the two kinds of Chesta Roop? Manini.
The two kinds of Chester Roop are Sadhana Roop and Karya Roop. Is that right? Karya Roop, yes. And Sadhana Roop is the endeavors that are part of our sadhana, both Vaidhi and Raganuga, that lead to the manifestation of Bhav. And then the Karya Roop are those that those endeavors that manifest as effects on attaining the stage of Bhav. And I know Charter covered those super fast. I wish those were on a slide, but you know, I couldn't get all of those down. But the 13 Anubhavs, the 8 Sattvika Bhavs, and that's as far much as I was able to kind of grasp from that. But I know that you said they're in Jaiva Dharma and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, so we can go back and, you know, get that detail.
Okay. Yeah, very good. Thank you, both Indulekha Didi and Manini Radha Didi. Okay, was that all the questions, Manini? Burna Didi. Go on to the next. Okay, great. So Sadhana Roop. So Sadhana Roop now is divided into two parts. Now we come to Pravriti Mula, that which is based on performance of positive action. In other words, that which the favorable endeavors undertaken with the body, kayak, mind, manasik, and speech, vachik. And then there's Nivritti Mulak, that which is based on avoidance of negative action. In other words, bodily, mental, and vocal that give rise to seva aparad, offenses in service, nam aparad, offenses to the holy name, and dham aparad, offenses to the holy places. So this word, Krishna Anushilana, implies two kinds of chesta or endeavors, and that means all varieties of Anushilana that are related to Shri Krishna, and all varieties of Anushilana that are performed directly to Krishna. And this Anushilana is defined in terms of Chesta Roop, which is Pravriti Mulak, with performance of positive action, like I said here, and Nivritti Mulak, which is avoidance of negative action. And in terms of Bhav Roop, or sentiments that arise in connection with such endeavors. So the beginning forms of Bhajan are the first 10 of the 64 limbs of Bhakti described by Rupa Goswami Pad in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So they begin with Shri Guru Padashraya, which means taking shelter of the lotus feet of Shri Guru, and then receiving Diksha. Second and third is receiving Shiksha. That means Diksha initiation and Shiksha instructions from the Guru. And then fourth is Vishrambhena Guru Seva, which means to serve him with great intimacy. So all these involve the cultivation of bhakti through endeavors, Chesta Roop, which arises from positive activity. So then Nivritti Mulak, The next 10 limbs of the 64 limbs of Bhakti describes actions that are to be given up, including like giving up the association of non-devotees, and avoidance of all kinds of aparad, like seva aparad, nam aparad, dham aparad, vaishnav aparad, all these different types of offenses. So it's recommended that one should act in such a way as to exclude these negative items that cause obstacles in one's bhakti. So in all these limbs of bhakti, there's no possibility of the fault of avyapti, which means underextension of a definition, and there's no possibility that the limbs of bhakti could fail to be included within the definition of Krishna Anushilanam. So this is very important points here. What is pravritti mulak and nivritti mulak? And in our on our path of bhakti, we're like what's described in Srila Rupa Goswami Pad's Upadeshamrita, the first two verses, Vachravegam, Manusya Kodavegam, Jiva Vegam, Vipastavegam, and Achahara, Priyaschacha, Pajaponi, Magraha. These verses describe the nivritti mulak, what's to be given up. And like Utsahan Nischyatarya Tattat Karma Bhavatana Tadati Pradikurinati Guyamakiti Pritchati. These third and fourth verses are the pravritti mulak, that's the positive action endeavors that should be taken. Just to give you an idea. And like I said, it's the first 10 limbs of bhakti is the nivritti mulak, the first 10 limbs of bhakti, the pravritti mulak, positive action, and the next 10 limbs of bhakti are the nivritti mulak. So just we're constantly endeavoring with positive action and avoiding negative action in this path of bhakti. And in Uttama Bhakti, that is there completely. So that there's absolute pure positive action and absolute avoidance of negative action, in other words. So we can go on to the next page. So I forgot to mention that when such cultivation, Anushilan, is in relation to Shri Krishna, or when it's performed for his pleasure, it's called bhakti. So that must be there. Now we're going on to Bhav Roop. So Bhav Roop is also divided into two parts. And the Sthayi Bhav Roop, that means the permanent sentiment in one of the 5 rasas or primary relationships of Shantaras, Dasharas, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, or Madhuryaras. And then there's Sanchari Bhav Roop, which are the 33 Sanchari Bhavs, or internal transitory emotions. For example, danya, humility, udveg, anxiety, and so on. So just to say something about this, actually there's this Sthayi Bhav Roop, that's the permanent, how you say, sentiment that's within someone's heart and soul, and that can be either in Shantavas neutralities, servitude, friendship, or parental mood, Vatsalyaras, or Madhuryaras, that's a conjugal. So there's Sanchari Bhav Roop, there's 33 different types of Vaibhachari Bhavs or Sanchari Bhavs. It's the same meaning there. So what are they? Like danya, humility is mentioned, udveg, anxiety, and vishad, despondency, nived, self-disparagement, avahita, concealment of one's emotions, fear is one, jubilation, like that. They all arise like waves from the ocean of the stai bhav, causing it to swirl and swell and enhancing it, and then submerging once again into the stai bhav. So like waves, enhancing and submerging like this. So like I said, the two kinds of bhav Roop, stai bhav and sanchari bhavs. And this is including in the word Krishna Anushilanam. So consequently, there's no possibility of the fault of avyapti or underextension of a definition there. So this Anushilana is undertaken for Krishna both as Chesta Roop, the endeavors, and as Bhav Roop. That means like both the stai bhav Roop and the sanchari bhav Roop. And that's possible only by the mercy of Shri Krishna and the devotees of Krishna. So, although the mind, body, and senses of the conditioned souls are unconscious, and therefore the Bhakti Vritti of Srup Shakti can't manifest there. The Bhakti Vritti means the tendency of Bhakti. So although the mind, body, and senses of the conditioned soul are unconscious, therefore the service tendency of the Srup Shakti, or the internal potency, can't manifest there. Nevertheless, by the causeless mercy of Shri Krishna and the Vaishnavas, then the Bhakti Vritti of Srup Shakti obtains tadatmya, which means it becomes one with or identical with, and manifests in the material body, mind, and speech of devotees who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Gurudev. And in this way, it makes them transcendental. It makes their mind, body, and senses completely transcendental. So what's the meaning of this tadatmya? Tadatmya means, the examples given, just as fire permeates an iron rod. If you put an iron rod in fire, the fire will completely permeate that iron rod. And that if you take that iron rod, then and you place it anywhere, it can burn any object that it touches. So, but without the contact of fire, that same iron rod cannot possibly burn other objects. So in this example, the fire is understood to have attained tadatmya. That means oneness with the iron rod. And in the same way, by the mercy of the Lord, the Bhakti Vritti, the service tendency of Srup Shakti, the internal potency, obtains tadatmya with the body, mind, and words of the devotees, and then acts through them. So it's a little technical, but anyway, I'm trying to explain something. Okay, so we can go on to the next page. Okay, so the stai bhav Roop. So the stai bhav Roop means, again, it's one of 5 essential ingredients of Bhakti Rasa. So stai bhav Roop is divided into 2 parts. Premankor Roop, the spout of Prem, in other words, Rati or Bhav, and Prem Roop, Prem, which is developed through the stages of Sneha, Man, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag Bhav, and Mahabhav. So, like I said, this stai bhav Roop, I explained before, it's one of the 5 ingredients of Bhakti Ras, which is the permanent sentiment of love for the Lord in one of the 5 primary rasas. And this which is primary attachment. It is the dominant emotion of the heart. So the stai bhav Roop is into 2. explained here. And all these states bhavs are completely beyond mundane worldly sentiments. They're transcendental and fully situated in Visuddha Sattva. That's unalloyed goodness. So then we can go on to the next. It's very, very technical today, but we can't avoid it. This is, we're really analyzing each and every part of this verse, each and every word. It's following the footsteps of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Rupa Goswami Pad. So going to the next. You still there, Kunamai, did he? Yeah. Oh, questions, okay. So we can just briefly go back.
Yes. I think that's, yes. Okay, Sadhana Rupa.
Okay. So Sadhana Rupa is divided into two parts, Pravritti Mulak and Nivritti Mulak. So that which is based on the performance of positive action or favorable endeavors, the mind, body, and words. And Nivritti Mulak, which is based on the avoidance of negative action with the mind, body, and words that give rise to any type of aparad, like that. And then next. So then Bhav Roop is also divided into two parts, Sthayi Bhav Roop and Sanchari Bhav Roop. So Sthayi Bhav Roop is the permanent sentiment in one of the 5 rasas or primary relationships, Santadasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Ras, or neutrality, servitude, friendship, parental mood, and Madhurya, conjugal ras. And then the 33 Sanchari Bhavs are internal transitory emotions. So that's like Danya, Udveg, humility, anxiety, and so on. Okay, so then the questions are coming now. Go on. Question slides.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
It's hard doing everything.
Yeah, I know, you're really doing really well. Thank you so much.
Okay. The first question, oh, I have to go to gallery view. Okay, here we go. The first question is, what are the 2 kinds of sadhana rupa? So what are the 2 kinds of sadhana rupa? Would you like to answer or try to answer? Oh, Shamali.
So these are Pravritti Mulaka and Nivritti Mulaka. So Pravritti is the positive action that's favorable, and Nivritti is avoidance of action or avoidance of offenses in service. And so those are the 2 sadhana rupas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then the next question is, what are the 2 kinds of Bhav rupa? Manini.
The 2 types of Bhav Rupa are Sthayi Bhav, which is the permanent sentiment, and then Sanchari Bhav, which are the more transitory emotions that come and go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the last question are, what are the 2 kinds? Oh,
I ask a question though, because I don't know. I had thought that humility actually arose from the Sthayi Bhav, but here you describe it as part of Sanchari Bhav, but it was
It's one of the Sanchari Bhavs.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's 33 Sanchari Bhavs, so you know.
I was reading something, it might have been in Gopal Champu or something or whatever, where it talked about humility arising, but maybe it meant the Sanchari Bhavs arise. Are they connected with Sthayi Bhav at all or no? They're 2 distinct.
I mean, they're all interconnected. They're all interconnected. They're all one of the 5 parts of Bhakti Ras, 5 ingredients of Bhakti Ras. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
okay, and then the last question is related. What are the 2 kinds of Sthayi Bhav rupa? So what are the two kinds of Sai Bhav Rupa? Like to answer or Manini.
Okay, the two kinds of Sai Bhav are Premankura Roop, or the sprout, such as Rati or Bhav, and then Prema Roop, which is the flower, I guess, which which comes through the stages that we, Snehaman, Pranaya, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, and then Mahabhav.
Yes. All right.
Shrimati Radhika has all. Yay.
Yeah.
True.
Radhe, 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 Jai, 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 Shri Radhe.
Jai Shri Radhe. So we can go on to Anukulyena Krishnanam Unashilana. So Krishna, in this verse, as it's Anukulyena Krishnanushilana. So the Krishna that's talked about here is Svayam Bhagavan Brajendranandan Shri Krishna and all other incarnations or avatars of Shri Krishna. However, there is a gradation in the cultivation of bhakti in accordance with its object. So here the phrase Krishna Anushilanam used in this verse actually points out clearly that bhakti is to be directed exclusively towards Shri Krishna. So in the commentary, it said that when the word bhakti is mentioned in any shastra like Srimad Bhagavatam or Narad Pancharatra, any other bhakti shastras, then it refers only to Bhagavat bhakti. Only refers to Bhagavat bhakti or Krishna. So the purpose of the word bhakti should only be used for Vishnu Tattva. That means Shri Krishna and his plenary expansions. Either Krishna himself, the original source of all incarnations, or other incarnations like Narayan, Varaha. However, the gradation in cultivation of bhakti is in accordance with its object. So in other words, the topmost Uttama Bhakti is described in this verse, because this verse is talking about Anibadasita Sanyana Kamanavatam Anukulena Krishna Anushilana. This is specifically describing bhakti to Shri Krishna and Uttama Bhakti that is towards or for Krishna, that is the absolute topmost. So one may have bhakti to other incarnations, but it's not going to be the topmost Uttama Bhakti. It can be Uttama Bhakti, but not the Uttama Bhakti that's described in this verse, if that makes sense. This is topmost. Okay. So Krishna Anushilana. The intrinsic characteristic of bhakti has been defined as the cultivation of activities in relation to Shri Krishna, Anukulyena. In order to establish the Roop inherent nature of bhakti, the qualifying adjective Anukulyena, which means favorably disposed, has been used because bhakti is not accomplished by unfavorable behavior. So this is a big word in this verse, Anukulyena. It has very, very deep and important, significant meaning. So in order to understand this word, then we'll go on to the next slide and we'll explain more and more, I guess. We can go on. Okay. So Ativyapti and Avyapti, or overextension and underextension of a definition. So some define anukulya as behavior or engagement that is pleasing. In other words, bhakti, or the cultivation of activities in relation to Shri Krishna, should be pleasing to him. However, by accepting this kind of meaning, the faults of ativyapti, overextension, and avyapti, underextension, may become present in the definition of bhakti. Ativyapti means that when a definition is too wide, it encompasses things which are not to be included within the description. And avyapti means that when a definition is too narrow, it excludes things which should be included within the description. So it's quite a purport to this. So the examples are given of what is ativyapti and what is avyapti, or overextension and underextension of a definition. Like, for example, when Krishna was invited to Mathura by Kamsa to a wrestling match with Chunura and Mustika, then when Krishna was fighting with Chunura and Mustika in the wrestling arena, they were both striking Krishna's limbs again and again. But this gave Krishna great pleasure. So through this interaction, Krishna was able to taste virya, which means heroism, with great enthusiasm. In other words, Krishna loved that fight. You know, in this material world, we see, which is the perverted reflection, you see wrestlers, they're wrestling with each other, and thousands of people come and see that wrestling match. The people who are wrestling, they get pleasure from that, and the people who are watching get pleasure from that. So that perverted reflection that we see in this material world, that taste of, you could say, perverted vira, is that originates in Krishna. So he's tasting great pleasure through this. You know, everyone likes a good fight. Krishna especially likes a good fight. So, but in this example, if the demons fighting with Krishna, violently striking him over and over again, and with the desire to kill him, if this appears to be pleasing to Krishna due to Krishna's tasting virya, then is it to be included within the definition of Uttama Bhakti? That is the question. Well, obviously, no, is the answer. If this is an example of Uttama Bhakti, then the fault of ativyapti, which means overextension of a definition, enters into the definition of bhakti as, but you know, this is completely opposed to bhakti. If someone has a desire to fight and kill Krishna, this is not anukulyena, it's not favorable to Krishna at all. So the next example is, how
about Mother Yashoda when she put the other one?
I was just about to, that's just about.
That's such a sweet one. And I believe that's under extension, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is the next example.
So sweet.
Yeah, I just got a phone call. That's why I was a bit distracted there.
No worries.
So when you show, as you rightly said, when Yashodamaya was seated Krishna on her lap, and she was breastfeeding him, and Krishna was enjoying so much drinking the breast milk of his mother. He was so hungry for that breast milk, but she looked over and she saw that the milk was boiling over on the stove, and about to fall into the fire. So what did Yashodamaya do? She immediately put Krishna down with just one hand, even though he was still remained unsatisfied. He was still hungry for more milk. But why did she do that? Because she wanted to save the milk as it was boiling over into the fire. So this wasn't at all pleasing to Krishna. In fact, he became very angry and upset and started crying loudly. Therefore, Krishna was displeased with this activity of Yashodamaya. So we could ask the question, should this be excluded from the definition of bhakti?
No,
No,
no.
no, not at all. Yeah, if we do exclude that the definition of bhakti, then the fault of avyapti, or under extension of a definition, will come. It will appear to be present in the definition of bhakti. So we can see from these examples that the faults of ativyapti, or overextension, or avyapti, or underextension of a definition, is not included in this definition of Uttama Bhakti. That's why the word anukulya has been used here. Anukulya means favorable to, with the intent of prohibiting these kinds of faults. So you understand that Rupa Goswami has very purposely used each and every word in this verse for a specific reason. And this reason is being highlighted by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. So the real meaning of anukulya is to be completely free from any attitude that's unfavorable or hostile to Lord. Otherwise, bhakti can't be established. So as the demons like Chanura and Mustaka and others are always hostile towards Lord, so those actions definitely can't be counted as bhakti. On the other hand, Yashodamaya has no trace of any thing that's unfavorable to Krishna. She hasn't got any attitude at all that's unfavorable to Krishna, not even a slight trace.
Correct. She wants her Lala to be a good Lala. She wants him to be, not at all unnourished. And so she wants to also give service to the milk, because the milk should give service. So she's giving more and more and more.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was just about to say. So she's always permeated with pure Vatsalya Prem towards Krishna and is always thinking of his welfare, like I think Indulekha just mentioned. So she's constantly attending to his needs. So the devotees like Yashodamaya, she naturally displays an even greater love for those things that are favorable towards the service of Krishna, that can be used directly in his service. So like Indulekha mentioned, that the milk was actually being boiled on the stove. Why? Because it was being used in the service of Krishna. How was it being used? Yashodamaya, she would boil the milk and make so many nice milk sweets preparations for the pleasure of Krishna. So her putting Krishna down and going to save the milk was with the idea that no, this milk is to be used for Krishna's benefit. So therefore she left Krishna's side and she went to what was going to be used for the purpose of serving Krishna. This was more important.
And this is the sign of Guru, right, Charu? This is Guru.
Yeah.
She was actually, thinking of her Lala, but also the milk. that he should, it should also serve. So Guru wants to show us how to serve, and she's topmost. Sorry to always interrupting, but this is one of my favorites. I love it.
It's in Damodar Astakam, this point is being mentioned as you in the commentary, that just like Guru is always looking for how the disciples can be engaged in the service of Krishna. So Yashodamai is like that Guru who's seeing, oh, the milk is to be used in the service of Krishna. It's for his pleasure, for his benefit. So I must save the milk. The milk is like, it's going to commit suicide. And she's saying, no.
Exactly.
Don't do it. No, your life is very important. So therefore, I must save your life in order to so that you could be utilized in the service of Krishna. So, and Guru is very kind and merciful upon the disciple like that, always thinking of ways to engage his disciples. So
don't be weak, always be humble, always be strong. Like he was saying, we're lionesses. My daughters are my lionesses.
Yeah, definitely. So, so this action of Yashodamai has no connection, no contact with the fault of avyapti or underextension of a definition. So one may raise the following objection, that if a favorable attitude or anukulyena, anukul, in other words, the absence of any unfavorable or inimical attitude, that means pratikul, defines bhakti. And if bhakti involves some kind of activity that's favorable for pleasing Krishna, then what is the need for using the word Anushilanam to further qualify it? That means Anushilanam means cultivation. So why use this word cultivation? So in the commentary, Vishnav Chakravarti Thakur has explained, yeah, it's true that the nature of bhakti isn't established by a mere absence of an inimical attitude. Just because an object has an absence of that inimical attitude, like animosity, then we can't say necessarily that object is imbued with Uttama Bhakti. Like, for example, a clay pot. Can one say that a clay pot is to be possessed of bhakti, to speak of Uttama Bhakti? No, never. It's true that there's no unfavorable attitude or any kind of animosity in the clay pot, but doesn't mean to say that in that clay pot there's Uttama Bhakti. Why? Because there's no activity of any kind implied there. The clay pot isn't performing any kind of positive activities in relation to Krishna. Isn't the clay pot is not doing bhakti in that way. So therefore this word Anushilanam isn't without meaning. Understand that this word cultivation must be there. Otherwise you couldn't say a clay pot is doing bhakti like that. I know that's clear, but okay, we can go on to the next. Okay, questions. Okay, so just to quickly go over, Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Krishna refers to Swayam Bhagava Bhajendana Shri Krishna and all other incarnations, and but there's a gradation in the cultivation of bhakti in accordance with its object. So this verse is referring to the absolute topmost Uttama Bhakti because it's in relation to Krishna. But if it's in relation to other incarnations, maybe there's some lesser gradation there. Krishna Anushilanam, the intrinsic characteristic of bhakti, has been defined as the cultivation of activities in relation to Shri Krishna and Anukulyena in order to establish the Swarup, inherent nature of bhakti. The qualifying adjective Anukulyena, favorably disposed, has been used because bhakti is not accomplished by any unfavorable behavior. Okay, next question. Ativyapti and avyapti, overextension and underextension of a definition. Some define anukulya as behavior or engagement that is pleasing. So it's not in this verse that this word means just that which is pleasing, but that which is favorable, that gives benefit to Krishna. So otherwise the faults of ativyapti, overextension, or avyapti, underextension of a definition, will be there in the definition of bhakti. Okay, so you can go on to the questions.
Okay, so the questions are, what is the meaning of Anukulyena, and why is this word used to qualify the definition of Uttama Bhakti? And again, the question is, what is the meaning of Anukulyena, and why is this word used to qualify the definition of Uttama Bhakti? Manini.
I'm gonna try here. This class is so power packed today. There's a lot of technicality, but can you say the question one more time? You
Sure.
said what is Anukulyena and why is it
Used to qualify the definition of Uttama Bhakti.
Okay, Anukulyena means favorably disposed, and so it's used to qualify it so that to me, it's like describing the purity of that endeavor, I guess, that it's not accomplished by any unfavorable behavior, but really the favorable. Is this a proper understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just to add on, and as well as it's not overextension, it's the underextension, just again, like Mother Yasoda. It's for
That's the
fully.
next question.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's the next question. You could answer the next question.
Okay, so here's the next question for you. Induleka, what is the meaning of Ativ Yepti and Aviya Yepti? And can you give examples of each?
Ativ Yepti and Avyapti.
And
Well,
Aviya.
the first one, because it's really hard for me to say it, is when those wrestlers, they really wanted to beat, Krishna, and it was no, they wanted to kill him. That's that one, and that's overextension. But Mother Yasoda is totally guru. She's thinking only of Krishna's welfare, and Krishna, even though she put him down and he was so upset, he was crying, he was which also goes into the fact that he goes to the butter, and all that stuff, but I won't go that way. And so then she thinks about the milk overflowing, which is under what is it called again? My mind. Underextension, because this is full of only exclusively for Krishna's health and well-being and growth and everything a mother would do, as I've done for my children, but she's of course more. I hope I answered that.
Yes, very nice. Thank you so much, Induleka Didi. Didi.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, we can go on to the next. Last few slides now. Okay, so finally on to the Tatastha Lakshana, or intrinsic characteristics. And that is the first part of this verse, Anya Balasita Sanyam Gyana Kaman in Anadritam. So Rupa Goswami Pad has explained this first part of the verse, what is not, how you say, what is Uttama Bhakti devoid of, you could say. So here, Anibilasita Sanyam, to devoid of all desires other than for Bhakti, that is Uttama Bhakti. Anibilas means a desire for other objects. Now, we see that Rupa Goswami Pad has used the word Anibilasita Sanyam, not just Anibilas. Why? So the suffix ta is added, which indicates the quality or state of being of anything. This means that in his natural condition, a devotee should have no desires other than for bhakti. However, if a devotee finds himself in an unnatural condition or having to face any type of calamity and is compelled by circumstances to pray for his protection, for example, then his bhakti will not be affected or damaged in any way. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he said it's particularly worth noting that the term Anibilasita Sanyam has been used rather than Anibilas Sanyam. So Rupa Goswami has given, the deep and hidden meaning behind this, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given what Rupa Goswami Pad meant by this. So the term Anibilasita means desire for other objects, and the suffix ta has been added. Like I said, it indicates the quality or state of being of anything. So what does this mean? Anibilasita Sanyam, first of all, the general idea is that it means or indicates that there's no selfishness of any kind here, that the devotee shouldn't ever desire anything for himself, like, name, fame, adoration, like this. A devotee doesn't serve Krishna to get anything in return. So otherwise that would be Karma Mishra Bhakti, but this is describing Uttama Bhakti. So he's not doing Anushilanam for his own happiness. He's not cultivating these activities for the benefit of Krishna for his own happiness or with any expectations of results. So here we see it's not Anibilas Sanyam, completely devoid of all other desires, but it's Anibilasita Sanyam. So why is this suffix ta being added? Because it indicates that one should be devoid of all other desires except for the service of Krishna in one's svabhav, one's natural condition. And Gurudev said, for example, if someone's sitting down chanting and everything is very peaceful, then inherently he has no other desires other than to serve Krishna. He's chanting and he's completely absorbed internally, externally in the service of Krishna. So in this way, he's in a very peaceful condition. But if a calamity or crisis or some great danger came about, then, in other words, if someone came along to beat up that person or kill that person, then at that time, his svabhav or normal condition would become transformed. And he may call out, oh, Krishna, oh, please, Krishna, save me. So in that situation, the devotee seems to be asking for something for himself. But actually, that mood isn't there within him. In ordinary circumstances, that wouldn't come up. But if an unexpected calamity came about, like devotees being attacked or anything like that, then yes, the devotee may pray, oh Bhagavan, I am your devotee, please protect me, please save me, like this. But in spite of this desire, in spite of this calling out to Krishna, to save himself, then his bhakti is not damaged in any way, shape, or form. There's no, bhakti is not affected in any way. Why? Because it's only due to that calamity that there's a reversal in his natural condition. Therefore, he's compelled by circumstances to call out, to pray to Krishna. So this is, like in an unnatural way. So this desire isn't in his innate condition. And the example that's given by Gurudev and other acharyas is that of Draupadi. How she served Krishna with all her mind, body, senses, heart, everything. And she didn't want anything in return. Yet we see that when she was in the assembly of Dushashan and the Kauravas, and Dushashan, he grabbed hold of her and he wanted to derobe her, take off her clothes and make her naked in front of the whole assembly. Then what did she do? She called out, hey, Govinda, oh, Govinda, please save me. So it seemed that she was apparently asking for something for herself. So does this mean that her activity wasn't in the realm of pure bhakti? No, not at all, because in her svabhava, innate natural condition, in ordinary circumstances, then she would never ask Krishna for anything. It was only because she was put in this unnatural condition, as she was faced with this calamity of being derobed in the assembly, that then she called out for help. But then you could say, well, however, Ambarish Maharaj, he didn't pray for his safety at all. When Durvasa Rishi sent the fiery demon towards him, did Ambarish say, oh, please, Krishna, save me, save me? No, he didn't. So we can't say then that Ambarish Maharaj's bhakti was higher or better than Draupadi's. That would be totally wrong. Because why? Why is it like this? Because Ambarish Maharaj was a sadhak, and Draupadi was Krishna's eternal associate. So whatever she did was to please Krishna. It was for Krishna's pleasure and glory. And therefore her action was included within the definition of Uttama Bhakti. Actually, Draupadi, she was thinking of not herself. She wasn't worried for herself at all. She was actually worried for Krishna, because she was thinking that, oh, Krishna, if you don't come and save me, then we, the Pandavas, who are most near and dear to you, if you are not saving one of us when we are in trouble, then your name, your good name, will be contaminated, will be, what's the word? Will go down. So for Krishna's sake, she was calling out for help, not her own, but it looked like she was calling out for her own safety, please save me like this, but no. Okay, so therefore, by the word anibilasi ta, the suffix ta is added. Why? Because in this definition of Uttama Bhakti, then Rupa Goswami is making a concession to include any devotee that's put in an unnatural condition, unnatural position. And, you know, that devotee may appear to call out, cry out for help, or, you know, some kind of protection in those circumstances, but this is okay. Why? Because that devotee is not in his ordinary natural position as Svabhav, and therefore there's a concession that if he does, you know, seem to desire something, some protection or whatever, then it won't damage or affect his bhakti in any way. So, okay, we can go to the next one. Okay, Gyana Kama Nanavritam. The cultivation of bhakti should be free from the coverings of Gyan, Kam, and so on. So 3 types of Gyan are there. Tat Padartha Gyan, knowledge of the constitutional identity of Bhagavan. Twam Padartha Gyan, knowledge of the constitutional identity of the Jiva and his relationship with Bhagavan. And Jiva Brahma Aikya Gyan, knowledge of the oneness of the Jiva and Brahma. It is this type of Gyan that this verse is referring to. So just to explain a little bit about Tat Padartha Gyan, like if we say, Shri Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, he is Parabrahma, he is Paramatatva, he is the origin of all, yet he himself was without origin, he is the supreme cause of all causes, and he is Satchinanda Vigraha, he is the embodiment of existence, knowledge or cognitions and bliss. And he is Swayam Bhagavan. He is the original Brajendranandan Shyama Sundar. So this, what is this? This is Tat Padartha Gyan. So what is Twam Padartha Gyan? This is knowledge of the constitutional identity of Jiva and his relation with Bhagavan. So, for example, if you say the jivas are atomic particles of Chit Shakti, that means living spirit. They are infinitesimal rays of the supreme absolute truth, Shri Krishna. And the jivas are Anu Chaitanya, which means infinitesimal consciousness, whereas the Lord is Vibhu Chaitanya, which means all-pervading consciousness. The jivas are subjugated by Maya, but the Lord, he's the controller of Maya. And the jiva's relationship with Krishna is that of eternal served, the Krishna's, the servitor Bhagavan, and the jivas are the eternal servants. So the jivas in this way are one with and different to Krishna. It's called Achincha Beda Beda. So this is Twam Padartha Gyan. This is an example. But what is Jiva Brahma Aikya Gyan? That is the knowledge of the oneness of the Jiva and Brahma. So if we were to say, oh, there's no difference between the Jiva and Brahma, and just when one's ignorance is dispelled, dissipated, then the Jiva becomes completely one with Brahma. That's his natural position. He's completely one with Brahma. So he attains the Roop with Brahma, you could say. So he hasn't got any individual Roop. So in this way, this Jiva Brahma Aikya Gyan, where it explains there's no separate or individual existence of the Jiva to the source of himself, which is Brahm or Param Brahm, then this is to be completely rejected. So it's this type of Gyan that this verse is referring to. Why this knowledge of Nirvishesh Gyan, impersonal knowledge of not the non-distinction of the Jiva with Brahm. This is completely opposed to Bhakti. Why is it completely opposed? Because there's no possibility of the jiva developing, cultivating, or manifesting his relationship, his eternal relationship with Krishna. So, you know, the jiva cannot realize his individual Svarup, his eternal nature, to be servant of Krishna. It's not possible for him to realize that if one cultivates this kind of knowledge. So this will completely cover one's bhakti if this knowledge is cultivated. So, but the other two forms of knowledge, Tat Padartha Gyan and Tvam Padartha Gyan, actually they are not opposed to bhakti, and they, in fact, to be cultivated, at least in the beginning, you know. So when one first adopts the path of bhakti, they can be, they're actually considered essential in a way. But upon entering the path of bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, that's devotion mixed with empiric speculative knowledge, that is considered external and must be given up. Like in Ramananda Roy Samvat, when Mahaprabhu was asking Ramananda Roy, what is the goal of life? And he came to this, you know, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Sunya Bhakti, like this. First of all, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Mahaprabhu, he said, oh, this is external. This is external, and no, I don't accept this is the ultimate goal of life. It was only when Ramananda Roy explained about Jnana Sunya Bhakti that Mahaprabhu said, yes, this is right. Yes, this is something, you know, he accepted. So karma. So karma, all nitya-naimittic karma, daily and occasional duties, as well as all types of karma, Mishra and Jnana Mishra Bhakti have been forbidden. So karma as activities in seva are helpful in the performance of bhajan are not forbidden, as they are within the category of Krishna Anushilanam endeavors for Krishna. So I think this is quite clear. So this is described in Jaiva Dharma, what are nitya-naimittic karma, that means daily and occasional duties. So that is to be given up, and all types of karma mishra, Jnana Mishra Bhakti also should be given up. But only the that karma which is, you know, actually encompasses service, that's helpful in the performance of bhajan, and so is not forbidden. So that can never be prohibited. Yeah, okay, so we can go on to last slide, I think we'll do for today. Adi Anavrita. So Adi means and so on. So in the phrase Gyana Kamadi, the word Adi refers to renunciation that is not helpful to Bhakti. Falgu Vairagya, the eightfold yoga system, Astanga Yoga, frequent and repeated meditation on abstract spirit, the practice of Abhyas Yoga, as cited in Sankhya Shastra and other practices. All these are also prohibited. So, Anavrita, uncovered. Only the Gyana Karma that cover Bhakti have been prohibited, not the Gyana Karma that gives nourishment to Bhakti. If Karma and Gyan were completely absent, a sadhak would not even be able to maintain his life. Therefore, the word Anavrita is used and not the word Sunya, completely devoid of. Okay, so this answers the question, why is the word Anavrita, uncovered, being used in relation to Karma and Gyan? Instead of the word sunya, completely devoid of. So, so there's two types of covering to bhakti. So one is fear that by not performing nitya karma or daily obligatory ritualistic activities, in conformance with the injunctions of Shastra, the scriptures, one will incur sin. So it's that fear, oh, if I don't perform my nitya karma, my daily obligatory ritualistic activities that described in Shastra, the injunctions that are in Shastra, then what will happen? I will get sin. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sava Dharma Prikyagyam Mamme Kam Savanambhajamaham Tvam Sava Pabhabhyo Makshayeshi Masuja. Krishna saying, give up all this nitya karma, nimitic karma, give it all up and just perform pure bhakti to me, and don't worry about any reaction, because I will protect you from all reactions. So that is there. So the number two, we were talking about the two coverings of bhakti. The other is the conviction that by carrying out one's nitya nimitic karma, daily and occasional duties, in the words set down in the Smriti Shastras, that one will obtain the desired food in the form of bhakti. So this is not a fact at all. So if one is impelled by such a conviction and faithfully performs all his nitya nimitic karma, daily and occasional duties, thinking that, I won't be able to attain bhakti if I don't perform these duties, this karma, actually, this will obscure, this will cover his bhakti. So, if, however, an advanced devotee sometimes performs Vedic rituals like the Shraddha ceremony, sometimes Gurudev might perform the Shraddha ceremony for someone, or and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he went to Gaya, to perform this Shraddha ceremony. So you cannot say that a pure devotee who performs such activities is performing some kind of nimitic karma. No. Why is he doing it? He's making offerings to the forefathers with no regard at all for those rituals. He's just merely performing the like Shraddha ceremony or any other activities like that to instruct people in general. And in this way, there'll be no harm to his bhakti, because he's performing such activities without faith that bhakti is dependent on them. He's just simply performing them, like to set an example or two for the benefit of ordinary people. So in this way, this Sudha Bhakti, this pure devotion, is neither hindered nor covered. So then I think we'll leave it there. I think there's questions now, right?
Yes, there's questions. Should I the
Yeah,
slide?
just quickly, very quickly. Yeah.
Okay, so there's that one, and then this one, and then this one, and then the questions.
All right, just do it a little longer. Just a few minutes on each. 1 minute on, less than 1 minute on each.
Go back. Okay.
Yeah, just go back, because
Okay.
yeah. So Gyan karma and Avatam, the cult. Yeah, where are we? I was saying tastal action, extrinsic characteristics, anibilasita sunya, Gyan karma and Avatam. What is anibilasita sunya? What's the difference between anibilas and anibilasita? Why is the suffix ta added? And then we can go on.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, yes, Gyana, Karma, and Avitam, the cultivation of bhakti should be free from the coverings of Gyan, Karma, and so on. There's the three types of Gyan, Tadpadata Gyan, Twambadata Gyan, Jiva Brahma Aikya Gyan, and it's this Jiva Brahma Aikya Gyan that this type of Gyan that this verse is referring to. And then what is Karma? Described in this verse, explains there. And tatastal action is the extrinsic characteristics. Oh, we've already been through that. Okay, you just jumped back to that.
Right.
Okay. So, sorry, Adi and Avrita is Adi and so on. So why is it Gyana Kamadi? Why is that Adi added? What's the meaning of that? And it can also mean, like Gurudev used to say, astrology, or any kind of mystic yoga, anything that is not in direct connection with Uttama Bhakti and Krishna, it's covering, in fact. Okay, Anavrita, uncovered, that's not covered. Only Gyan and Calm that cover Bhakti have been prohibited, not the Gyan and Calm that is nourishing Bhakti. Okay, that everyone is performing some kind of Gyan and Calm in his life, otherwise he cannot even maintain his life. So that's why the word Anavrita is used, not the word Sunya, completely devoid of. Okay, so finish. What's the next?
All right, so the first question, here we go. We have 4 questions and I'll read them quickly here. What is the meaning of the suffix ta and why is it added to anya bilasita? So what is the meaning of the suffix ta? And why is it added to anya bilas? Manini.
Okay, this is again so power packed. Ta is a suffix which indicates the quality or state of being of anything. So it's added to Anya Bilas to confirm that this is like that we should have no desires for something other than bhakti. So Anya Bilas means a desire for other objects, and Ta means that this is like a condition that we are trying to be in. I guess that's the way I understand it. Barring if there's some unnatural thing, like Charu was giving the example of Draupadi. And I was also thinking about how all of the residents of Vraja, when, the demonic things come in, they always cry out for Krishna. I think that's part of like Goptritve or surrender, where that Krishna is your maintainer. So that doesn't affect bhakti, right?
Bhakti Vaks, actually, Shridhar Maharaj gives that example, yeah.
Okay. Hari Bol. So I think I understand it, but I don't know if I covered it well enough, but that's the best I can offer. Hari Bol.
Yeah, what was the question?
What the suffix ta, what is it meaning and what's added? So yes, thank you so much. The next
wait, well, I think have you missed you missed one. I think you missed you missed.
And
is it?
Yeah. So the next,
sure. Let me have a look. 50, it was from page 15, right? Oh yeah, okay. All right, no problem. Yeah, that's correct. Sorry.
Okay. So the next question, what are the 3 types of Gyan and which type of Gyan is the verse Anya Bilasita Sunyam referring to? So what are the 3 types of Gyan and which Gyan is referred to in the verse Anya Bilasita Sunyam? Manini.
Okay, I'm just going out on a limb because no one else is volunteering. But the 3 types of Gyan are Tat Pradartha Gyan, which is knowledge of the constitutional identity of Bhagavan. Then Twam Padartha Gyan, knowledge of the constitutional identity of the Jiva and his relationship with Bhagavan. And then Jiva Brahma Akya Gyan, knowledge of the oneness of Jiva and Brahm. And it's this type of Gyan that the verse is referring to, that knowledge of the Jiva and Brahm, that is not so good, because that is like just not as much of a clear conception. The other 2 types, to me, well, I don't know if you said this because I was trying to take in a lot, but like the first and second ones remind me of just Sambandha, where we, understand who we are, like, and who we are in relationship to Sri Krishna. I mean, ultimately, that's what we're going for, to understand what that relationship is. But when we have this concept that we're one with God, that is not such a proper conception. It doesn't take into account a Chinta Beta Beta Tattva, like you were saying, and it's it won't lead us to Golok. So that's really the key.
Can't possibly realize our Roop and our eternal relationship with Bhagavan if this type of Gyan is covering. And, ultimately we'll have to give up all types of Gyan, apart from we'll have the realization, like you said, of Sambandha Gyan. But gradually, as we progress, we'll have to give up all types of Gyan. So yeah, very good. And
Okay.
was there any other question?
Yeah, there's 2 more questions. What is the meaning of, what kind of karma is to be given up? So what type of karma is to be given up? Would someone who hasn't answered a question like to give it a go? Okay, so, Manini.
Okay, the type of karma should be given up as nitya, naimitika, right? Naimitika karma, as well as karma mishra and Gyana mishra, these types that are mixed or just having to do with our like prescribed duties. It's really to get to where we're, what we're doing again is for Krishna's pleasure, for Sri Krishna's pleasure, not so much for like us trying to get what we think we need from whatever practices we're doing, whether that's pious credit or whatever, just to be like really, this is the mood of the gopis and Srimati Radhika actually. So this is what we are modeling. Haribol.
Yeah. Aspiring to be the maid servants of Srimati Radhika. So we want to give up all types of Nitya Naimitic karma, not be attached to any results of our performance of bhakti like that, and not think that bhakti can be attained through performing this Nitya Naimitic karma. Or, someone might think, oh, if I don't perform my daily duties, my occupational duties, then I won't get bhakti. That's also important to understand. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, this is because bhakti is actually independent, right? And so we shouldn't be under the, the idea that actually what we're doing is, forcing bhakti's hand, so to speak, but really just endeavoring to be in that mood that really can melt our Srila Gurudev's heart, and that we can receive the mercy that will help us to progress.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something actually, because what is bhakti for us is we can look at what has our guru instructed us to do. This is our only duty or service, actually. You shouldn't think of, oh, I have to do these particular, duties in my life because Shraddha Sabde Vishwaskara Sudhananis Joy, Krishna Bhakti Kaila Kama Krita Hoy, that actually what is the definition of faith is that by performance of bhakti, all other activities, all other, like I said, Nitya Naimitic karma, everything is automatically accomplished. So it's not that we should think we have to do that and, bhakti can be attained or that's part of bhakti. No, service is service and everything else will be accomplished by that, if that makes sense. Yeah. And what was the other question?
Okay, actually there's 2 more questions. I don't know why I missed that, but what is the meaning of Adi, and can you give any examples? So what is the meaning of Adi, and can you give any examples? Manini, I'll just ask you.
She's a star.
Shamali's raising her hand. Shamali's raising her hand.
Okay, Shamali Didi, please. You became very quiet for a while. We were wondering what happened. you.
Manini has much better grasp of the subject than I do. Can give it
No,
back.
you have a very good grasp. I think you were just being humble and quiet there in the background.
Well, Adi means so on, or it refers to renunciation, and there are certain things that cover us. Like if we were to follow the eightfold yoga system, the Ashtanga, or meditate on the abstract spirit. Again, I think it's like if we're looking for liberation into the Brahma Jyoti, we are negating Krishna. So any of these are covering and are like thunderbolts in Krishna's body. So these are things that are strictly forbidden. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, Adi means and so on. So it's anything, it's not only Gyan and calm, but and so on refers to, like you said, this Astanga yoga, or the mystic yoga to attain mystic cities, for example, or even Gurudev says astrology, or even the ordinary yoga, hatha yoga, everything, this is it, we think this is essential to perform as part of my bhakti or whatever. No. So yeah, they all cover bhakti basically.
Okay, and the last question, why is the word anarvita, not covered, used, and not sunya, completely devoid of? Manini.
Anavrita, which means uncovered, is used instead of shunya, which means like completely devoid, because we do need some gyan and karma. There's some gyan and karma inherent in our practice, or we would not really be able to maintain our lives, as Charu was saying. But I think the point here is that we're not giving the emphasis to oh, I have so much knowledge, or oh, I'm doing so many endeavors, but really, to try is bhakti. That's what I've heard Gurudev say, to try is bhakti. So, but we try. So that, that is our endeavor. And we are taking this class, trying to get some knowledge so we can, be growing in the right direction, so to speak. So it's just not to be eclipsed, I would say, by our endeavors and our knowledge, but to be supported by it or nourished by it.
Yeah, if it's in connection with seva, any kind of knowledge or karma activity that's in connection with seva, then this is definitely not to be given up, and therefore the word sunya, completely devoid of, is not used, but rather anavrita, as long as it doesn't cover bhakti or endeavors like that, So we've got to the end. Is there any more questions, or is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, wow.
A bit.
I didn't actually think that we'd get through this whole verse today. I wanted to speak about Mishra Bhakti, but there's absolutely no time, so that'll have to be for next time. But there's so much in this verse. Devotees could speak for days and days and days, weeks and months about this verse, like Gurudev would. He'd bring it up again and again and again, wherever he went, all over the world, in every town and village, in Vrindavan, in America, Europe, everywhere. He would have a devotee stand up and recite this verse and explain the meaning. So it's really good that we've been able to dive as deeply as possible today in the meanings, the hidden meanings, and the meanings of each and every word and syllable. So eternally indebted to Srila Rupa Goswami Pad for giving us this definition of Uttama Bhakti, and to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur for elaborating on the definition, and the other acharyas, and especially our Gurudev, who's enlightened it more and more, and given so many explanations so many times. So anyway, thank you to everyone. I don't know if there's any questions, if there's a burning question by anyone. Was there anything in the chat or in Facebook? Or yes, yeah, go on.
So everything we just covered, is that all located somewhere? Is that from?
Yeah, it's mostly in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu.
Okay, Bhakti Rasamrita.
Yeah, by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's elaborated on it so much.
Wow.
So,
Amazing.
otherwise, we could never really understand the intricacies of that verse if it wasn't for his explanation. And of course, Gurudev gave us that. So,
Wow.
I had a question, Charu. Why I wasn't clear about why you brought up Ambarish Maharaj, like as an example. I mean, I knew why you talked about Draupadi being disrobed, that had come to my mind, but was Ambarish Maharaj, he didn't pray for any salvation? So
no, he didn't pray. So someone might say that, oh, well, Ambarish Maharaj didn't pray, so therefore, he's certainly within this definition of Uttama Bhakti, because he didn't even pray for his own protection when the fiery demon was coming to kill him. But Draupadi did, so she prayed for her protection.
Oh,
so that's what you see what I mean.
see,
So
yes. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Gurudev mentioned that. Yeah. So.
Wonderful.
Okay. All right. So we can finish there. Manini Radhadidi, would you like to sing something Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to end?
Okay,
Right.
I'll just sing. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. I can't even do it. I have to put on my tempura. Let's see. Hare.
Yeah. Where's your guitar?
I can grab it. Give me one moment. All right.
All right. Anyway, I'll just say Vanchakalpadrubhishta Kripasindhave Vacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha to everyone. Thank you so much for joining and your patience. It's quite a topic as we've discovered today. And yeah, it's amazing.
Sorry, Haribol. I've still been practicing the Australian tune, if that's okay. I'm just trying to get okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Pranams, Hari Hari Bol. You're on mute, Charu.
On mute, yeah, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Gurudev said, when we do kirtan, always end with Hari Bol. You know that? Oh, Hari Bol,
Hari Bol. Okay. Hari Bol. Jai Guru Deva Jai. Guru Deva Jai. Guru Deva Jai. Guru Deva Jai. Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Prabhupada Jai. Prabhupada Jai. Guru Parampara. Guru Parampara. Guru Parampara Jai. Guru Parampara. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Nitai Gora. Hari Bol. Nitai Gora. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Gora. Hari Bol. Jai.
Kishi Guru Ganga Gandhava Gajai Shradmu Hayuki Jai. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your patience. And see you next time. There's the Gurudev Vani Vaishnavi Prachar next Friday with some devotees, lady devotees from New Zealand. And yeah, following week we'll carry on with some Bhakti by more deeply. So thank you. Okay, everyone.
Thank you, Karuna Mai. And great kirtan, Karuna Mai, at the beginning. This is wonderful.
Yeah, thank you to Karunamai Didi. She was really multitasking today, filling in for Krishna Priya Didi. Thank you so much, Didi. And to you, Manini Radha Didi and Shamli Didi for giving your summaries, very good summaries. And answering the questions. And thank you to Karunamai Didi for asking the questions. Okay.
Okay, Hari Bol.
Thank you so much.
Very happy.